Hello and welcome to the Creative Academy and our Blue Pencil Sessions. This is where we take a look at your work and offer you our opinions. I'm Eileen. I'm here today with my colleagues, Donna and Crystal, and we're having a chance to look over a picture book manuscript by Bonni called Tea Party. So anyone who knows me knows that I love tea. So this is, of course, right up my alley and something that I'm interested in talking about. And I'm going to actually end on Crystal today because get those thoughts on how this works as a picture book, which is always one of those things that I don't know because that's not my area. But Donna, let's start with you. What were some of your initial thoughts?
All right. It's funny. I read through the first time without realizing it was a picture book, and then at the very end read the note that came before it. So, note to D: know what you're reading before you read it. And as soon as I learned that it was a picture book, I had this little like, oh, that's so great. I love that it's a multicultural story that doesn't tell you that it's a multicultural story except through the pictures. So I was able to look and go, okay, I get it now. And I really, really could picture all these different kids with their different cultural traditions for how they have tea. And I also too am a tea drinker. And I loved that little very subtle way of sharing that information that we all do. We have this tradition that we all approach quite differently in our different countries of origin. So I loved that little part of it, or that which is the part of it. I loved that.
Yeah, and that was one I didn't pick up at first, just because it took me a minute, even though I knew it was a picture book, to just sort of, oh, of course, these are people are coming from different backgrounds. Now, one of the things that I think threw me and confused me is that you have them all in this art class. So they're often sort of starting off with things like they drew their favorite toy. And I know, Donna, you mentioned you thought at first people sort of pulling a toy out of something. And then the next week when they're painting fruits, I was like, oh, are they painting the things for the tea party? So I would lean towards possibly taking the art class out and having them just in class together, or possibly in a daycare together, I guess, depending on their age, just something to sort of, so we don't have that added confusion. Now, the only thing I wasn't sure about is I found this, much like Donna, just adorable, and I loved everyone's different areas, but I wasn't sure if there was enough conflict. So that's where I'm going to bat it over to you, Crystal, to give us your thoughts on, from a picture book frame up, how well does this work?
Yeah, so there's a couple things at play whenever you're thinking about a picture book. So one of them is, how will these text sections break out into spreads or visuals? So I think a really good exercise for you with this story would be to take it and actually do that breakdown. So every picture book in the traditional publishing world is going to have 32 pages, because that is a standard double-sided signature. So you get 16 on one, 16 on the other. And that does include like the title page and the copyright and things like that. So for anyone who's watching this who's looking at picture books, it's always a good idea to go through a handful of the picture books on your shelf, because naturally you're reading extensively in the genre that you're writing, and make a note of how many actual story pages are there, right? So usually you can plan about 28, which would be like 14 spreads. So if you go through your manuscript and you put a little line or a star into where you think each spread would be represented, then that's a really smart way to do it. And you think about, okay, is there something that needs to be a surprise on the next page? Then this needs to go on a right-hand page, right? And so you won't have actually this control when it goes to a publisher. But when it's written in a way that somebody who's receiving it, whether that's an agent or an editor or a publisher, can easily, instantly see this on a page, it helps make their job an easy yes, right? Because they can immediately understand how that's going to work. So I think break that out a little bit, because I'm not sure that you have enough spreads in here. Unless you're thinking about, particularly if you do remove the art aspect, and I would agree that even though you had some fun art stuff in there, I found that confusing, and it kind of detracted a little bit from the impact of the tea parties, which is really what this is about. So meeting at a rec center, or, you know, whatever it is a good alternative, I think, and just, you know, they're just having tea parties. That is the focus. So yeah, I don't think there's quite enough here. I think in terms of of that page stuff, once you break it out, you'll see that you want the solid visual differences to be the focus for each of those different spreads, and that the conflict, the only conflict that's in here that I can see is that Martha looks at her tea set and she's worried because the cups are too flimsy for hot tea, and her dad says, well, you can make iced tea or use our tea mugs. And so she takes out the mugs and none of them matched and one was chipped. So like I like the recurring worry that she has about each of those things, and she's kind of comparing herself to these other options, and in the message it's that, you know, it's different, it's not better or worse, it's just the way you do it. And so I really like that, and I think it's subtly done and it's not preachy, and that's fantastic. So yeah, and so I don't have a solid answer there, but removing the art class stuff so it's not a split focus, and then looking at your spreads to see if you've got enough of a build-up in there. And then I think maybe some feedback from a tea group would be a good way to go in terms of, or if you want to do like an agent pitch or whatever, if you've got another opportunity for that, would be good. I'd be interested to see it again after you make those adjustments, though. I think it's a really great premise, and I think it's a pretty hot set of topics right now. So with the multicultural diverse focus, and it's great from an educational picture book standpoint as well, because you can bring that into the social studies curriculum and you know, world studies and all kinds of stuff. We have lots of cultural studies stuff built into the current curriculum. So I think that has a lot of power. So I think you've got a really solid beginning here, and then just to focus the story in so you remove the distractions will be where the power comes from.
That sounds perfect to me. So we look forward, Bonni, to hearing what you do with this one. And for anyone else, if you would like to send us a blue pencil, we'd be happy to take a look at it and give you our thoughts and feedback on that. And until then, we will see you around the Academy. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.